balanced way. And on this channel, you will find a variety of inspirational and informational videos. So if that sounds good to you and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. My guest today is Shannon Catalano, who is the founder and spokesperson of the nonprofit organization Lone Star Wheelers, located in Plano, Texas. Lone Star Wheelers provides free adapted bicycle rides for the sick, elderly, and disabled. I will be linking their website down below in the description box for your reference. Welcome, Shannon.
Hi, thanks for having me, Lisa.
Thanks for coming on today. So let me just start with, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I live in Plano, but I took the long way to get here. I grew up in Oklahoma and I moved to Boston, DC, Denver before coming here to Texas. When I got here, I had a hard time finding my people, and that's when the Lone Star Wheelers was born, and it now feels like home for me.
Awesome, awesome. And just on a side note, just for my audience to realize what a heart of gold you have, is that you are also a kidney donor. And I have interviewed several kidney donors who I think are heroes in my book on my channel here. And that's how actually I found you, is through one of the kidney donor athletes, Bobby, who hiked Mount Kilimanjaro back in March. And come to find out, you also did that as well. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I had it on my heart to donate a kidney. The seed was actually planted when I was 11. So when I turned 40, that was my way of celebrating good health and fortune in this life. I just wanted to really do something impactful for someone else. And that was 4 years ago. Since then, I've been working to advocate for the cause. Part of that was hiking Mount Kilimanjaro. It was something that I wanted to do anyway. But then when I found out that the kidney donor athletes were putting together a group, I knew then and there that I wanted to go with them. Because to be honest, I've never met a kidney donor I haven't loved.
Awesome, awesome. And you donated to a stranger, is that correct?
I did.
Amazing, amazing. So I always think it's great to do an extra little plug for that organization and that group and all the people that are selfless and compassionate, because I know several people who are in need of a kidney right now and will die if they don't get one. So thank you for doing that on behalf of everybody that, you know, currently needs a kidney.
Thanks.
Yes, yes. So let's talk about Lone Star Wheelers. Can you tell me, why did you start this organization?
Well, I have to back up a little bit and give you a little background.
Yes.
I was civil service with the Air Force for 13 years, and I really felt like I was doing something great for my country, but it was very long term. I wasn't seeing immediate impact. So I left that career behind and I went into the fitness industry, and I had some successes there, but it still wasn't those hard hitting impacts that I was looking for in my life. And I ended up taking 5 weeks out of life to ride my bicycle cross country. So I did that in 2017. I rode from Canada to Mexico in support of MS awareness, advocacy, fundraising. And that was really life-changing for me to have that experience. And so then I was trying to figure out, well, okay, what's next? So then it was my kidney donation. And that left me feeling like, wow, is that all there is? I mean, how could I possibly do something better than kidney donation? It just left a little bit of a hole, like wondering, okay, so that was the pinnacle, and what now? And I happened to come across a video from the Portland Wheelers. They're out of Maine, and they have this great adapted bicycle program. So I reached out to the executive director, asked some questions, and that's how the Lone Star Wheelers was born. And when I was having a conversation with the executive director, he asked me, well, why do you want to start this program? And a memory from many, many years ago popped into my head. I hadn't thought of it since it happened, but my grandma Margie was in memory care and she was having a bad day and she just wanted to leave. And my brother said, well, Grandma, what in the world would you do if you left? And she said, I'd ride my bicycle. Mm-hmm. And so when he asked me, why do you want to do this? It was wild how that memory just popped into my head. And I thought, this is it. This is it. I can't pedal my grandma, she's gone, but I can pedal someone else's. And that's almost just as good.
Oh my gosh, you give me chills. That story is so special. I love that you did it in honor and memory of your grandmother. Something is so simple that we take for granted as riding a bike that most of us loved as a child and tend to get away as we become adults and all the responsibilities of adults. We forget the fun of the simplicity of just riding a bike. Let me ask you, you did the bike ride for multiple sclerosis. How many miles was that and how many days was that when you went from Canada to Mexico?
It was 2,000 miles. And the organized ride was from Seattle to San Diego. But I wanted to do the whole thing. I thought, well, if I'm going to do that much of the Pacific Coast, I might as well do Canada to Mexico. So my husband helped support me for the very beginning and the end. But basically, it was 5 weeks.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Yeah, I've done the MS 150 from Houston to Austin, and it's a 2-day bike ride, and we raise at least a minimum of $400 to participate in that bike ride. So I'm assuming that it's kind of in the same organization that does such a thing.
It's actually a separate organization.
Oh,
it's called Bike the US for MS.
Oh, okay.
So they're separate. This is a smaller organization. You raise at least $1 per mile.
Okay.
And it's a supported ride, and it is so well organized. I would recommend it to anyone that has a desire to do an epic bike trip.
And so do you pick your own charity, or is it all go to
it's
MS?
For MS, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I remember writing it and seeing a sign that said basically that you have the ability to ride today and some people don't, just as kind of like a reminder, and how grateful that we should be to have these experiences. Okay, so back to Lone Star Wheelers and why you started it and created it. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization, what it does?
We give bicycle rides to anyone that cannot ride independently. My heart is with the elderly. And so I set up our host location at a senior living facility right off of a local trail. So I didn't want to have to deal with the logistics of getting this big bulky bike from wherever it was stored to where we would begin and end the rides. So I just started looking for senior living homes. I pulled up Google Maps and I started looking to see facilities near the trails by my home. And I came across Dayspring Senior Living. I contacted them. And out of all the senior living homes I contacted, they were the only ones that reached out, that replied to me with a real email and not just an automated thanks for your interest. Mm-hmm. And so, right off the bat, they had one going for them, just that they were real people. Mm-hmm. And they, wanted to connect in a real way and not just a formality of thanks for reaching out. So they invited me for a visit and I showed up to their facility. And at this point, I had already had the logo created where we would be flying the Texas flag from the back of the bike. And I showed up to Dayspring Senior Living and they had a Texas flag out front. And then I realized not only are they near the trail, but their parking lot has ramp access to the trail. So we don't even have to go onto the road to access the trail from their facility. And then they walked me in. We went to their rec room, and they had a bicycle on the wall with one of those beautiful sayings like enjoy the journey or something along those lines. And I just knew that all of these moments were telling me that I was in the right place.
Amazing. And I see the picture behind your shoulder there that shows the adapted bicycle with the Texas flag. And if you're from Texas, we're very proud of our state. I don't know any other state that has that much pride. So that is very fitting to put a flag on the bike. And I think that is super. So you have this set up at the senior center, and I'm so glad they replied. They definitely saw the advantages of what you were offering, and you are definitely showing and modeling to others that, you know, just a local citizen with a great idea, you know, can start an organization such as this. And so I love that you had that fortitude and you actually made it happen with this senior center. Can you tell us a little bit about the bike rides? So once they, and how they set them up and so on.
We are at Dayspring Senior Living every Saturday. We're there in the mornings when it's hot and in the afternoons when it's cold. We have 2 volunteers per shift. We have 1 bicycle at Dayspring Senior Living. So each person in our care has 2 people there supporting them. And it's all because I am very safety minded. I'm treating that person like they were my, you know, like I said, my own grandparent.
Right.
And we don safety vests and show up there no matter the weather. So if we get there and it's too hot, too cold, too wet, too whatever, we show up, and if no one wants to ride, we play dominoes and we chat and we develop those relationships. And I like to tell people that come to me wanting to volunteer that biking is just a small piece of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that connection and relationship building and being there for someone.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, because some of the seniors may not even have family members that come visit them. You may be the only one that they talk to and actually is coming to see them.
Yeah, so we show up and it's first come, first serve. And this has all been a work in progress. We started out doing 2 days a week, and this is a smaller facility, and that turned out to be a little too much. And the activities director prepped me for that. She explained that building a little bit of anticipation, and maybe not everyone gets to ride every time, like it makes it exciting. And I didn't see that in the beginning. I just wanted to ride as much as I could.
Mm-hmm.
But when they only have volunteers show up maybe once a month, and then they're seeing volunteers for this program coming twice a week, it did feel like a lot. That's why we scaled back to just Saturdays. And so we show up, it's first come, first serve. We have our regular group of passengers, and some of them want to ride every week, and some of them are more fair weathered. But, you know, we come in, we chat, we pull the bike out because it's stored in their rec room. So we pull the bike out. The volunteers help load the passenger because some of our passengers are more mobile than others. So if someone needs assistance, like we help guide them to the seat. And our particular bike has a harness and a seat belt.
Mm-hmm.
So we get them all strapped in, they wear a helmet, and the pilot, the person pedaling and steering, is in control of the special bike. And then that second volunteer that I mentioned, they ride their own bicycle just alongside, either in front, beside, or in back of the adapted bike. And they're just an extra set of eyes, hands, ears, just being there. Like I said, the loading and unloading, that can be a little precarious. And also, if we happen to have an emergency on the trail, you have 2 people to handle the emergency. And for instance, our passengers like to go to the dog park. So along the trail, there's a dog park, and we like to stop outside of the exit. And we just watch the dogs playing inside. And then as the dogs come out, we will ask if our passenger wants to pet the dog, like we'll ask, is your dog friendly? Would this be okay? And this one particular gentleman said, yeah, sure. My dog's very friendly. And then the dog got excited and put his paws up on the armrest where our passenger's arm was, and it scratched his arm.
Oh.
And I believe I was the pilot that day, and I didn't notice, but the ride along did. And so that was just, one example of why it was great to have two people, because one person noticed, the other person didn't. And so we got his wound covered. He wouldn't let us treat it, even though we carry an emergency kit with us. But we decided, okay, we're heading straight back. We notified Dayspring, and all was good. But it's just being safety minded and knowing that we have multiple people there, just to make sure that that person is as safe as they can be.
So what type of training is involved for volunteers to be the co-pilot? I think you said there's two people, one's a co-pilot and one's I read that somewhere.
So we have a pilot
and a co-pilot.
Right along. Yeah.
So what type of training and volunteer time is required?
So we ask that potential volunteers come to Dayspring on a Saturday with their own bicycle, just so they can see the program in action, because the program can actually be really slow. And we've had potential volunteers being excited about the opportunity to get some exercise. And it's not about that at all. And for people to see that before we invest time and money in getting them trained, I think that has been a really good implementation that we've made as we've grown and learned along the way. So they come and they make sure that this is a good opportunity for them. Then they go through Dayspring's orientation. They have a volunteer orientation. So they get oriented with everything that happens on the inside. And then I orient them on everything that happens on the outside with the bicycle. We have an extensive training because, again, we have to, exercise extreme caution with this vulnerable population that we pedal. So they go through the training with me, and sometimes that's many, many days of training. And it's just like anything else in this world. Like some people catch on like that, and other people just need a little extra hand holding. So we take as much time as that person needs to feel comfortable. And we have some volunteers that prefer to be the ride along, to not be that person pedaling and steering the adapted bike. And at the very end of all of that, we have a check ride. So that volunteer pedals the adapted bike with our lead volunteer in the passenger seat. And there's some communication, she gives feedback. If she's comfortable ultimately with that last ride, then the person is cleared to volunteer. And we ask that people commit to a minimum of 6 months, and we want them to volunteer at least once a month.
Okay.
And it's just because there's so much, time and energy invested.
Yes.
And Dayspring runs a background check on them.
Yes.
So there's a lot that goes into it. So we just want to make sure it's the right fit, a safe fit, and that ultimately everyone is happy.
Yes, yes. So let's talk about the uniqueness of these bikes. I was reading on your website that they come from the Netherlands, which everybody knows is the bike capital of the world. Tell us a little bit about that.
When I reached out to the Portland Wheelers, they explained that they started out with another bike. And it was a great bike, but it wasn't robust enough for the type of use that these programs put the bikes through. And so they were the ones that found Van Ram, the manufacturer of the bikes we have. And when I reached out to other programs, I know of 5 other programs in the US doing what we're doing. And it's a really open, friendly community. They're, they either all started out with Van Ram or they're transitioning to Van Ram. So that's kind of where everyone's heading. So like I trusted that they had done their research and made the right decision. And, you know, I did some research on top of that and it seemed to be a good fit. And so we ended up buying a demo bike. I bought it sight unseen. I was just ready to get started, but we don't have any Van Ram dealers in Texas. Actually, the closest dealer is in Iowa, so 700 miles away. I ended up buying this bike sight unseen, and it was great. And it served its purpose for the first 6 months that we were in operation. But then we ultimately decided that that bike was better suited for very small adults or children. Just the shape, the way the passenger seat was designed. So that bike is now a loaner bike. So we have a borrow a bike program. It's currently with a family outside of Dallas. So they have a safe place to store the bike and they have a special needs daughter. And so I got them all trained up on the bike. I delivered the bike, I trained them on the bike. And when they're done with the bike and it's time to go to another family, I will pick it up and repeat the process. Mm-hmm. So that was our original bike. And we ended up getting 2 brand new bikes that it has a much better design for the passenger. Mm. And so we have a brand new bike at Dayspring and it works perfectly for our population there. Mm-hmm. And then the other new bike is at a school in Dallas. And that's an internally run program. So I trained the special education teacher and then she trained the staff at the school. So they only pedal their students and the pilot is a staff member at the school. So that's an internally run system. And then we have, you know, the open to the public system that I've been talking about with Dayspring. So we're open to anyone in the community. And we've had community members meet us there at Dayspring. And that's another wonderful thing about the community is that they are such a warm and loving and welcoming community that they're perfectly fine with having people from, you know, the neighborhood come park in their parking lot and have their rides begin and end there at their place.
Oh, that is amazing. So yeah, obviously these bikes are not cheap, and with any organization, especially a startup organization, donations and grants are going to be highly needed. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you're right. The bikes are expensive and it was a little daunting in the beginning without having an extensive fundraising background. Really, the only fundraising I'd ever done was for the big bike ride that I did cross country. So I ended up doing a fundraising letter. It was a 1-page letter that talked about my grandma Margie. I had a picture of her and I just explained the program, how it was going to run, my motivation. And I sent it to just family and friends, and the money came from the most unexpected places. Mm-hmm. It was really so beautiful. And I was glad that I had opened my heart and mind to reaching out to people that I hadn't talked to in a very long time. And one particular person, I worked with him. It had been around 5 years. Around 5 years had gone by since I had worked with this gentleman, but we had a bike connection. And so I sent him the fundraising letter, and he has ended up being one of my biggest supporters. So it really is a beautiful thing, like bringing people together. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, I just have the most wonderful group of people in my life now because I decided to step out of my shell and do this thing because it was important to me. You know, I had a connection when I saw the video of the Portland Wheelers, and I wanted to do it here. When I realized there wasn't a program here for me to volunteer with, I thought, well, okay, I guess I have to start it.
Yes, and there's going to be somebody watching this video today, and you're going to plant the seed for them to start it in their community or their city. So you never know the domino effect that you're having. Definitely. So I also know that people can donate directly on your website. You have like a Facebook and PayPal. So if people want to do that, they can definitely do it directly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things I want to touch on is why these bicycle rides are so needed. Can you talk about some of the benefits of having these bicycle rides for the disabled and elderly?
We have a really wonderful person that we got to know over the winter. It wasn't ideal weather to ride. And so I would show up on a Saturday and I would end up playing puzzles and just getting to know the residents. And there was a new resident that we got to know during the inclement weather. And she was one of our first passengers when the weather got nice. And I met her granddaughter. And I said to her granddaughter, bring your bicycle and ride with us. And she said, well, I don't have a bicycle. The very next week, she had purchased a used bicycle and was there to ride with her grandma. And it's such a beautiful thing. Like I really, truly love having her there. And I just think about these memories that she's creating with her grandma. And I just love that it's strengthening their bond. They had a close bond, but now they have this special thing that very few grandkids and grandparents have, in my opinion. And so the granddaughter was going to be out of town, and she explained that the only time that her grandma gets out is for the weekly bike ride, that she doesn't know that her grandma is getting out other than that. And it was really impactful to hear that if it wasn't for us, she probably wouldn't be getting any fresh air and sunshine.
Yes.
And another thing that really hit home for me, I attend the Day Spring orientation ever so often, you know, when I have a group of volunteers going through. And the activities director, she explained, she walked us down to the end of a hallway that had a door with a window looking out onto the trail. And she said, in the 7 years prior to our arrival, that she can only recall one resident getting out on that trail. And they got out once in 7 years.
Wow. That's huge, because when I think of movement is life, like you need to move, and that's how we live. And so I think about the elderly, that especially the disabled, where maybe you don't get as much nature and fresh air and sunshine and vitamin D. You know, your service is actually helping individuals get that. Plus, they get to feel acceleration. That's what a bicycle, I mean, that's a feeling that you don't get anywhere else. And so I can just imagine how wonderful that feels for an individual who, you know, is always in the four walls under, you know, artificial light, and just, you know, that's not good for our health.
Yeah, it really is so special. And I find after a day of volunteering that like my cheeks hurt from smiling so much, because it's just pure joy.
Yeah, you get to see the immediate effects, you know, of the benefits that they're getting from that bike ride. So can you tell me a little bit about where you see your organization 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What are some of the things that you would like to see happen?
When I initially started out, I wanted one bicycle at a local senior facility, and I wanted that to be my baby. And that was, going to be with this endeavor would be for me. And then when I realized all the administrative work that it takes to start a nonprofit and get my processes and procedures together, all of the lessons learned and the money, time, all of that, I decided that I don't want other people to have to go through all of that work just because they want to peddle somebody. So I initially thought, since I was modeling my program from the Portland Wheelers, that I'd be the Plano Wheelers.
Mhm.
And I started thinking bigger picture. I had some wonderful people in my life that helped me think bigger picture. And I thought, well, the Lone Star Wheelers, and then I can have chapters all over Texas. So I am willing and open for anybody in the state of Texas to operate under the Lone Star Wheelers umbrella so that they don't have to go through setting up the 501c3 and all the other things that go into having a nonprofit.
Mhm.
I do have other people outside of Texas interested in a bike program, and I just recently built a document that outlines step by step how to start a program. And I would be willing to share that with anyone because I want to make this as easy as possible for people to simply give bike rides because it is so simple.
Mhm.
I just want to take the complexity out of it, especially somebody that doesn't want to have to go
Mhm.
through all of those steps. I love it. I love it.
I can
That's
see
just how my brain works.
I can see your passion for it. And that's exactly the type of individual you have to have when you start a nonprofit organization, because it is a lot of work. It is a lot of trial and error. And especially if you don't have anybody to help you through it. And so I'm glad that your organization is going to partner and help others that have the same vision that they can do in their community. And I hope that people will reach out to you and utilize, your knowledge and your experience, because you definitely bring that to the table.
Yeah, I hope so too. Because I mean, like I said, it's pure joy and it brings so much enrichment to the lives of the people we pedal and for the volunteers.
Mhm.
We're 100% volunteer run because we just simply love it.
Mhm. Fantastic, fantastic. Well, we're getting here to the end. Can you share with us anything else that you would like the audience to know about Lone Star Wheelers?
I just want to convey that we have to take care of the people in our community. Like it's about love and connection and caring. I mean, that's what this world is all about. And I feel like it's sometimes easy to get wrapped up in our own little world. But when you're able to open up your eyes to these amazing relationships, and they really are truly beautiful relationships that we've built with the people that we pedal. And I'll just leave you with one last little story. So there's one woman that she can't hear very well, so our connection is just being in the presence of each other. And I saw her the other day. I was just at Dayspring on an off day to take care of some business. And she came up to me and she said, I'm homesick and I want you to come and visit me every single day. And I thought, okay, so it's not just about bike rides. I mean, the people that we pedal see us like family. I see them like family, and I feel that love is reciprocated, that they've connected with us so much so that we feel like family, and that helps them feel less homesick when we're there. And it is so much more special than I ever envisioned it to be. And that's why the hard work is so worth it.
Mhm. Yeah, we live in too much of a youth obsessed culture. And I think, if we're lucky enough to all, get into our elderly years, I hope that there are more Shannons in this world because I think your message is very important, and what you're doing is much more than a bike ride. That's just one part of it, as you've conveyed today in our talk. And so I sure do appreciate you sharing your organization, and I wish you all the best on it growing, and that we see this these adaptive bicycle rides all over the cities, all over the United States.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, yes. And if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. I would love to hear your feedback. Maybe Shannon will also jump on there. And also don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be alerted to when the next video drops. Thanks for watching. Bye.